Have you ever thought about how wasteful your clothes are? Like the clothes that you buy, where you buy it from. Is it sustainably created? Is it made in a way that it's not going to harm the planet, the ocean after you're done with it, after you throw it out, or after while you wash it, or how many times you wash it? There's a lot of things that we need to talk about when it comes to fashion. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, because I am speaking with Courtney Barriger, who is the president and CEO of Holding Court Inc. and creates these fashion items that look like any other clothes, look amazing, and are actually good for the environment. We're going to be talking to Courtney all about how she does it and what you need to know about fashion in a sustainability sense on this episode of the How to Protect the Ocean podcast. Let's start the show. Hey everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of the How to Protect the Ocean podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Lewin, and this is the podcast where you find out what's happening with the ocean, how you can speak up for the ocean, what you can do to live for a better ocean by taking action. On today's episode, we have Courtney Barriger, who is the founder and CEO of Holding Court Incorporated, or Inc., who's here to talk about fashion and sustainability in fashion. You know, a lot of times I buy clothes. I try and buy them used now, but I buy clothes and I'm just like, is this really sustainable? Is this material of this shirt actually sustainable? And a lot of times it's like, no, it's not. It actually gives off a lot of plastic fibers, gets into the ocean. It can cause a lot of problems. You know, hundreds of thousands of animals a year die of plastic and fibers and all these kind of things that break down into the ocean. Microplastics, microfibers, they're just not good. It's not good for the environment. And we just continue to buy these because they're cheaper. We can afford it better and it's understandable, but we need to know how we can afford and buy things that are more affordable for us, and that when we wear it, we know it's good for the planet and it's something that's important. So I asked Courtney to come on the podcast to help with, learning about her story, how she got into this, how she started as an advocate, always interested in fashion. She was a model at one point. She started off on a reality show. It kind of got her fashion career going. And she talks all about, her founding story. She talks about how she's starting this Holding Court and how it's become such a big part of her life and what we need to know about sustainability in fashion. So here's the interview with Courtney Barriger. Enjoy, and I'll talk to you after. Hey, Courtney, welcome to the How to Protect the Ocean podcast. Are you ready to talk about sustainable fashion?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Courtney, I'm really happy to have you on the podcast today because this is a topic that we don't really get to talk about a lot of times. Like we talk about oceans, but when we talk about oceans, we always have to talk about behaviors. And one of the things that drives behaviors incessantly within a household, within the world, is fashion. We all wear clothes. We all wear certain types of clothes, but a lot of the clothes that we find are not necessarily recyclable or, driven by a lot of different things, and a lot of the stuff that we make or that we wear that are made for us are not really that good for the environment. And so always happy to talk about sustainability, especially around fashion, especially around clothing. So I'm really excited to have that conversation with you today. But before we do, why don't you just let us know who you are and what you do?
Yes. So I got into fashion probably 15 years ago, designing something for Miami Fashion Week. And
Nice.
at the time, I was more into storytelling and kind of doing the advocate thing, trying to figure out where things, where I could align myself in the world. And I moved to LA and won a reality TV show called America's It Girl. And
Oh, nice.
the prize of that show was my own clothing line. So
Wow.
at least I had a little bit of a background in design, but a whole collection was something that was like way beyond my grasp at the time. So I started doing a little research. Okay, how can I contribute something better to the world, even if I'm doing fashion? And what I found out was actually pretty shocking. There is so much room for improvement in the apparel industry. And I want to call it the apparel industry too, because when you say fashion, I think people get the idea of a runway collection or something designer or high end. It doesn't necessarily have to be that, actually. Fast fashion, cheap things are actually even more of the upsetter here. But so I launched a brand called Holding Court. And this was now 8 years ago, I guess. And that's been pretty fashion forward, really, really fun. I've done runways. It's blown up in Mexico, in Tulum, in the Caribbean, so it's all over the place.
Wow.
And yeah, I'm really proud of it because I only use non-toxic materials, silks. If I do use a polyester, which some things do need a little stretch, it's always
Yep.
recycled. So yeah, it's very eco-conscious. And this last spring, I published a book all about sustainability in fashion. So I kind of like
Nice.
brought it all together and delivered a really cool workbook on how to even learn about your own impact and then how to change it.
So this is the book is not just for people who are trying to get into the apparel industry. This is like people like myself who could look through and be like, okay, how am I, like, I look at the clothes that I have, how am I impacting the world just based on the clothes I have?
Yeah, so Refashion Workshop it's a little bit of all of that. So you're going to find out your carbon
Nice.
footprint. You're going to find out what toxins are in your clothes. There's a whole chapter on washing and oceans too. So that's something that is very relevant to today.
That's amazing. That's fantastic. I want to bring it back a little bit. You know, when you hear reality show, you always wonder, how did how did that happen? How does that get up? Now you moved to LA, you were in the advocacy space and stuff. How did it all work out? Like, how did you find out about the reality show? How did you get cast for it? How did that all come to be? Because I always find that's an interesting story.
Oh man, so strange. So I mean, like, yeah, these things are strange. They're so strange. So back in the day, before this is really before even Instagram was huge. Um, the modeling industry, you would have, and I was a model at the time.
Okay.
So you would have either an agency that you worked with, but sometimes you couldn't. Sometimes you weren't booking all the time with them. So as a model, you would go to this website called Model Mayhem and
Okay.
create a profile and then see what listings are out there, see who's looking for a model.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, absolutely everyone was on there. I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
kidding. I got Halle Berry's manager contacted me through Model Mayhem. I
Wow.
mean, yeah, I got into a Vogue underwater shoot because of Model Mayhem. It was really impressive what you could get through it.
Yeah.
And one day I saw a paid advertisement for America's It Girl, the reality TV show that brings together a pageant and Project Runway. And I looked at this and I was like, no, this looks so dumb. This looks horrible. I mean, the graphics
Yeah.
of it. And then I kept seeing it for months. Finally, I was like, you know what? Let me just see what this is. I'm curious. You got
Yeah.
me. It's probably one
Yeah.
of those nights I should have been asleep. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like I clicked it and
Yeah.
I don't know. And the casting call was down the street from my house. I could walk there. So I was like, all right,
Right.
I'm gonna
Oh, that's
walk.
easy.
I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna see what it's all about.
Yeah.
I'm in a room with 40 or 50 young women, and they're pitching everything on like a PowerPoint, what this reality TV show is. And it really is a very strange combination of, like, they played a segment from Miss Congeniality. They were really hyping it up. They're like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
the women that are a part of this are all pageant winners and reality TV show winners themselves. And I have to say honestly, I myself was always talking shit about the reality TV show industry. So me even
Yeah.
being there was totally out of character. But by the
Right.
time I walked out of the building and had a personal meeting with their producer, they said, Courtney, we think you're going to win this. And I'm not kidding. I want you on this show. I
Wow.
might even pay you to be on this show. But
Wow.
we think like this interview that you just gave, yeah, you're going to win this thing. So
Like you were like the type of person that they're looking for.
I was already an entrepreneur. I was already like
Yeah.
testing different things. And
Yeah.
yeah, I did end up winning. So
That's amazing. So like, so this was like a model, like runway type thing, but also like you had like a talent, like you brought something else to the table, not just modeling, which is obviously something that is a lot more difficult than I think people realize. But you had this talent. So what did you bring? Like, what did you present to them that made it so like, oh no, okay, this is the type of person we're looking for?
yeah, so I was paired off with a designer. So there were talent contestants, and then there were designer contestants too.
Okay.
So they
Oh, okay.
also won something themselves, and so the
Right.
winning, basically, it's a winning pair.
Gotcha.
And yeah, we designed a collection together that was just really gorgeous. And I think if I'll be honest, I think what made me the winner is that I was already like I'd written a book when I was in college and published it.
Okay.
So by the time I was like in this show, I'd already
Yeah.
published 3 books, and I think
Man.
that kind of just blew them away. Like
What were the
what?
books on?
I love writing about, other than this fast fashion thing,
Yeah.
I have written traditionally science fiction or magical realism fantasy that
Oh, cool.
floats around with the dream world.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so one book is a book entirely of this woman's dreams, and you find out at the end that she lost her memory and she's trying to piece her life together by what she's been dreaming.
Okay.
So it's super surreal. And then there's another book that questions whether or not our dreams are significant or satisfying enough that if you didn't live a life of like adventure, but you dreamt that you did, could that
Mm-hmm.
also satisfy? Like, does your imagination, could your imagination also like satisfy if you didn't get to do what you wanted to do? So it's like an end of life story. So yeah, very,
Wow.
very different. I know I've had all sorts of different different
But
careers.
but I mean, but it's kind of interesting because you're writing like science fiction books. You know, you've written now like almost like a how to like a workbook. You've designed your own, you know, line, not like twice pretty much, because you did it for the show with a partner and then you did it afterwards. All these different types of experiences, like how have they shaped you into like the person, like the entrepreneur you are today?
I mean, the next project that I have lined up,
Yeah.
because Refashion Workshop is now done,
Yeah.
um, it really ties everything together very, very neatly, which was
Yeah.
a surprise to me when I woke up and I was like, oh my God, all of my past artistic experiences have been leading me to this point. It's
Right.
true. I'm so happy for that. I've written a children's book that
Cool.
is for girls 8 to 12. So it's not like little kids. It's
Yeah.
for young girls,
Impressionable age.
impressionable age, and it is
Yeah.
a hero's journey, and it does involve dreaming and
Yeah.
fantasy and all of that. And the backbone of this story is a story about sustainability in fashion, because
Love it.
on this quest, every part of it, the girl is learning something about the fashion industry. And and right now we're working on making it into a film. And
What?
yeah, there's all sorts of fun things kicking around for this one. It's called The Royal Road, and you're probably not going to even hear about it again for a few years because it's going to take that long.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
of course.
yeah, but it's coming out as a book first, and then it's going to the moon. The book cover is going to the moon on a rocket in December, representing, and this is true, ocean conservation, because the story is about a plague that happens coming from
Okay.
water, from toxic runoff from factories. So
Gotcha. Gotcha. I love this. I love this. This is, I mean, like when you wrote your first book back in college, did you ever picture your career ending up like your life ending up the way it is now? Like this is what you would be doing as a living?
Not a chance. Not a chance. Not even close. I wrote a book. I actually wrote a book because I couldn't make a movie. I was stuck in Jacksonville, Florida, and there was no film industry there, and I was broke
Right.
and just like
Yeah.
so hungry to do something creative. So I wrote a book, and it's hard. It's really hard. It's tough shit
Yeah.
writing.
Yeah. It's not easy. There's no way it's easy. Yeah.
There's no way. Yeah, there's not even a moment. Well, no, it is actually really fun. Like the payoff is the best feeling in
Yeah.
the world. But no,
Right.
if you would have
Right.
asked me, I at the time when I was even writing it, I was wanting to just go to LA and make movies.
Right.
And in some very roundabout way, I'm going to get that dream. But it seems like I needed to become an expert about sustainability in fashion before that. I don't know why.
Yeah. But I think it's interesting how things like this happen, right? Like you have this dream and we all think a dream happens a specific way. So for you, it's like moving from Jacksonville, Florida, you're going to move to LA, you're going to try and go to a bunch of auditions, you know, be an actor in a movie. And then that's how your career is going to lift off, do one movie, then do another, maybe, you know, dilly dally, maybe do, you know, a theater or maybe do TV. And that's how we picture it happening. But then it happens a different way. You start to write your own because like, oh, I haven't moved there yet. So I'm going to write my own book. I'm going to write another book. I'm going to write a children's book. Now, all of a sudden, this children's book could be, you know, could be made into a movie. You're getting it into a different way, but it's never what we expect a lot of the times. But what I love in this story is you created the opportunity for yourself, you know, by going out there, not just sitting on your hands and just being like, oh, well, I can't do this, or, you know, my dream hasn't come yet. You've actually created the opportunity. I think a lot of people miss out on that by not putting themselves out there, not challenging themselves doing a book, right? As you mentioned, it's not easy, but getting that fulfilling feeling after, and then eventually getting the experience enough to write a book where all of a sudden people are like, oh, okay, like this is something that we can put, you know, on film and, you know, increase the different styles of medium will increase the reach that this book will get and this story will get, which I think is phenomenal. But I find we miss out on that. And like you said, it's coming in such a unique way, you know, looking at sustainability, looking at fast fashion. And on that topic, it's a topic like fast fashion is a topic that we don't talk about a lot. We see it everywhere, you know, in our malls, we see it online, especially, we see it everywhere, but we don't talk about it. As someone who's been involved in the fashion industry, as someone who's, you know, obviously grown up, you know, looking at different outfits and things like that, why do you think it is that we just don't, it's not like a regular topic and nobody really wants to talk about it?
In my opinion, I think it is because there's such a lack of regulation that it's hard to even determine what is sustainable in
Right.
fashion. So if you take something like the food industry and you know, you have to go through a million tests to clear it with the FDA. How many chemicals of this and that
Mm-hmm.
are in your juice box? That just
Yeah.
doesn't exist for the apparel industry, even though you can have something to like 30 times the level of formaldehyde or
Mm-hmm.
BPA or PFAS in your clothes that would never ever be allowed in food.
Interesting.
So it's sort of a lack of regulation. So the public has a hard time wrapping their mind around it.
Yeah. Yeah. Now these like the I guess the substances that you mentioned, the materials that you mentioned, and the substance we hear that a lot, and if we hear it in a drink or we hear it in our like you said in something that we consume internally like food or drink, you know that's a bad thing. You know we know it's bad for our health, especially if we ingest it. On when it's on clothes, do we know that that is like if it hits contact with your skin? Do we know that that's a bad thing, like bad for our health? Is there evidence to support that?
Absolutely. If, for example, if you were to fly on an airplane and wear shorts and a tank top,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
the amount of formaldehyde in your body will be crazy, crazy, crazy high compared to before you took that flight. And it's because of the seat covers on these airplanes. They're covered in in water resistant, stain resistant materials.
Right.
So it's been tested that, I mean, that's just kind of one example, but
Yeah, of course.
30 to 60% of what you put on your skin is absorbed into your body. The skin is a two-way street. People think of it as just like, this is protection, and it is
Yeah.
protection,
Yeah.
but
Yes.
also it's what allows in the environment, and it's how your body detoxes from the environment as well.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, you have to think about your skin as being permeable, just like what you
Right.
eat, what you put on your skin, it goes into you. And when we want to talk about the ocean, uh, what we pour into the ocean doesn't just disappear.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah. It manifests. People think, whatever you put in the ocean, we solve it by dilution, but eventually we know that's not true. We know eventually there's a capacity where it can flip, and it can, that chemical or that that pollutant that gets in there can actually have harmful effects depending on the concentration. Maybe if you spill once or you put it once, it's not that bad, but if you continue to do it over and over and over again, it's going to have of an effect. And so I guess the same logic applies. I'm not a doctor or anything, but the same logic applies to something like clothes, where it has like maybe a stain resistance, or it has something that's on it that keeps it together for some reason, and there might be some extra chemicals that we don't realize. And eventually, if you wear it enough and you wash it, and it gets, eventually, I guess the integrity of the clothes can suffer after a while of use, and then the stuff can get on your skin if you're wearing it often enough, and that can have a detrimental effect in larger concentrations as it gets larger, right?
yeah, yeah.
That's
And then
crazy.
also when it comes to like, let's think about some of these harsh chemicals
Hmm.
in Europe and in the States. A lot of these chemicals are actually illegal to use. So
Right.
azodyes, um, I think it was France just outlawed PFAS on fabrics. So there's
Right.
a lot of regulation happening in some of these countries. But where our clothing's actually made, before it arrives to America, there are very, very few regulations there. And
Right.
what's right off the coast of Southeast Asia? The full coral reef in Indonesia, the Great Barrier Reef. I mean, there's a reason
Hmm.
that so much coral bleaching is happening there, and it's not just global warming, it's chemical runoff from these factories
Mm.
in
Yeah.
concentration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really, what's interesting when you mention that too is a great example of like how bad chemicals from factories can affect the ocean. Is we've seen it happen recently, and actually a positive story, eventual positive story, but New York Harbor has been awful for years, decades, even, from the factories that have been letting off chemicals and pollutants for since like the 60s and 70s. And it got to a point where there was no fish, like the fish would or very little fish, and the whales would be gone, and so forth. And now they cleaned it up, and now the menhaden are back, the fish are back, and the humpback whales are back, even in the harbor. And people are like, wait a minute, how did this happen? And it's just regulation to say, hey, by the way, like, we shouldn't be putting this in to the environment. And it's a proof that if we don't, we can get that environment back. Like, it can get healthy again. It just takes a little bit of regulation, which is not always easy to do, but it takes a little bit of regulation. Now, that's easy within a country, easier within like a country like US and Canada, where you have enough people to speak out and put pressure. But it's difficult when the fast fashion industry, especially, is globalized, right? A lot of materials are made and clothes are made, offshore, in Southeast Asia, and so forth. They may not have the same regulations, and so when clothes are made in Southeast Asia and then they come over, or India, like, and a lot of different places, and they come over to the U.S., do they have to have certain types Like, are there regulations to make sure that these clothes are made properly, or is that just not available on imports?
There's no law in place for that.
Mm,
The law is actually the biggest protection they have is um, factories in the States can't produce it
yeah,
themselves. They can't use these certain
gotcha.
chemicals, but it doesn't stop any manufacturer like Gap or American, whatever. Let's just say Gap from even importing. Well, they make their stuff overseas too. So I'm like, who makes their clothes in America right now that I can think of? It's massive. No one. But maybe
Right.
a small business who buys it, even who buys fabric off of Etsy. Let's just make that
Yeah.
example.
Yeah.
Um, there's no regulation in place for that. So, if anything, it's self-reporting. So the
Okay.
sustainable movement is it is self-generated entirely. So you're looking at designers who are hunting down fabrics that have certifications, and that exists. So as a consumer, you can hunt down the brands that have those certifications too. So that's one easy way to quickly bypass that.
Yeah.
But until there's a regulatory body that is globalized, and that seems to be absolutely impossible to do for anything.
Yeah.
Uh, right now, it's just volunteer. It's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
volunteer basis.
Well, I mean, and the big part too is education, like educating your customers as well, right? You having a fashion brand, an apparel brand saying, "Hey, look, okay, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing." And this is what our brand is based on. This is our vision. These are our values. We want to make sure that the clothes you are wearing are not only sustainable, but they're safe for your own self. How do you get that across? How do you, get, like, when you start this collection, you start this apparel, how this company, how do you speak to your customers to be like, hey, if you come over here and you take a look at my clothes, this is what you're getting?
In the beginning, I was all scare tactic. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
my first,
It's
yeah,
yes, I get it, I get it.
my
Yeah.
first website was terrifying, and I didn't make a single sale. And like, why? No one wants to buy my clothes. Why? It's like the landing page is like, your clothes will kill you. And then,
Right.
I think everyone going on there is like, am I shopping or am I getting a lecture? I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so then I went the totally opposite direction and just started making really beautiful stuff and then calling it like, live close to nature, or sort of making these headlines that are more light and inviting.
Yeah.
And then in the bullet points after that, saying, toxin free, recycled, Ecotech certified, or whatever certifications I have. And
Yeah.
then I still come across the lack of knowing why that's important. Okay, great. Thanks for what is Ecotech? Why do I care if it's toxin free? So
Right.
that's why I ended up writing Refashion Workshop, because still not enough people are
Yeah.
aware. And it's just funny that I have a solution to a problem that no one knows is a problem.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big thing. I have two teenage girls, and they buy clothes, from the mall, and they buy clothes online and stuff. And a lot of times I ask them, I said, "Do you know how these are made? Do you know who makes them? Do you know anything about them?" And they don't. It's more about the experience of the shopping. A lot of the times it's more about, what their friends are getting, and a lot of times there's not a lot of information available to about the brand itself and how the clothes are made. Um, but it is like, you mentioned something that, just a little while ago, how, like, when you first started, it was like a scare tactic. Then you're like, oh, I'm not selling anything. And I think it is like, I really like how you started to name your clothes, and sort of like, it's about the experience, how you feel in the clothes. I think a lot of times what I've seen from me talking to other people who sell sustainable items, right, or products, even services, they don't necessarily sell based on, hey, this is good for you, or this is good for the environment. They sell on, hey, this is going to make you feel good. Like you mentioned, like summer breeze, or I forget what you mentioned earlier before, but it's like you're or closer to the Mother Earth, or closer to the Earth. Now you're starting to. Now it's like, oh, I'm in nature. Like I'm either hiking, or I'm in a field, like running in a field. It's that how do you feel when you wear a dress, or you wear a crop top, or you wear, some pants or something like that? How do you feel? Has that been really like what you found after a while, like in terms of the messaging and marketing, and building your brand?
Absolutely. One of, if not the goal of Refashion Workshop is to make you a steward of the earth, because it makes you feel so damn good. All of a sudden you
Yeah.
have purpose, all of a sudden you have some perimeters around your shopping. And you know what they say
Yeah.
about creativity, which is one of the big things that young women, especially teenagers, get in gratification when they go shopping, is their self-image and
Right.
their moment of having this creative, they're at the mall or they're shopping online, they're getting this creative experience. What am I going to look like in this? How are people going to react? It's this whole beautiful thing that happens in your mind. So creativity is actually more productive if you create boundaries around it. So all of a sudden, now your boundaries are, it has to be good for the planet and it has to be good for
Yeah.
my body. The next thing you know, you feel amazing when you're shopping. And when you finally find the
Yeah.
thing that you're looking for that is sustainable, which is also another funny, tricky thing you have to go on the hunt for, um,
Yeah.
you feel that much better for having found it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's almost like conscious free shopping, essentially, right? Is like the design. Like when you go to the website, I'm on your website right now, looking at it. It's like, okay, great. Like obviously, a lot of these clothes are not made for me. I don't look good in a dress, let's just say. But but when I go to the website, it's like, oh, this is kind of cool because I know everything here is good for the planet, is good for the person who's wearing this. Like I can see my daughter's really enjoying this, my wife really enjoying something like this, and they look good. They look great too. Like it's not as if the clothes look different. It's not as if you've taken trash bags and put it together. Like these look phenomenal, and they're stuff that you can wear around, on a day to day, or whatever, for the sort of function you're going to, and still feel good about yourself. I think that's what's nice about this, is there's no questions to ask, because you've presented it as this is, if you want sustainable, if you want healthy, this is what this looks like, and it can look great as well. I think that's a really good thing to be able to put in a message, and provide that for that experience, right?
Yeah, a lot of people have a very granola idea about sustainability in fashion, but it has
Yeah.
come so far. You wouldn't even believe the fabrics now that you can make out of hemp. They
Yeah.
actually look and feel like silk. You can make anything out of hemp now. You can make
Yeah.
space parrots out of hemp if you want to. But clothing wise, I mean, it's not only underwear, it's activewear, it's silk, it's jeans, it's shoes, it's hats, it's absolutely everything.
What gets me as well, like in terms of interest, is the colors are quite bright. A lot of sustainable clothes that I've seen in the past tend to have like pastel type colors. You have reds, blues, like dark blues. You do have the beige, but you have yellows, oranges. How are you able to do that? Is that just, again, this the amount of materials that have increased over time because of the demand of making things out of hemp?
So what they are, I mean, they are dyes, but they're non-toxic dyes.
Non-toxic. So you've just
Yeah,
gotten better in terms
they've
of
just
like,
gotten, yeah, they've
yeah,
gotten way, way, way better over
that's
time.
amazing.
And you can, so there's different kinds of dyes that you can use. Like there's obviously straight from organic materials, so like your avocados, which turn your fabrics pink, or onion skins, really beautiful yellow. Those are really lovely, and that is one line of products that's out there. And there's also dyes that aren't organic that are non-toxic. So it's not a bad idea, honestly, in my opinion, if you're going to wear, I mean, not if you're going to wear. So say you have to change one thing out of your wardrobe immediately to get rid of the toxins in your wardrobe and in your body. Do your undergarments and your t-shirts and anything that's just the closest part to your skin. And that
Yeah.
those things don't even have to have a dye on them at all. You know what I mean? They could be
Right.
completely natural, and then you don't have to think twice.
I love that. I love that aspect. Now, to create a fashion, like to create an apparel line like this, um, that is, where the materials are sustainable, where the materials are good for the people, is not an easy feat. How did you like source the materials and do the research to make sure that these materials are sustainable?
So I'm actually pretty lazy when it comes to it because my first round of sourcing was so difficult. In
Yeah.
LA, I found one place in the whole entire city that was selling organic cotton,
Yeah.
tinsel, hemp, everything I was looking for, certified silks, and the prices were through the roof. And I'm talking about
Oh,
the whole city of LA. This was now a while ago, so I'm sure things have been updated. Um,
right.
but at the time, I just picked out, okay, this. These are all my favorites. I can work with my dyes. I can turn this into this. Um, it's sort of like that creativity thing that I was saying, that it creates this box with which you can only work with these fabrics. So
Yeah.
you've got to get creative. Since then, I found a supplier online that I get my materials from for the silks, and they're certified with Ecotex, and I trust them. And
Yeah.
like I said, I'm lazy, so once I find that product, I have been sticking with them for now five
Yeah.
years. Um,
Nice.
because the next design phase, I'm going to be doing a lot more linen,
Right.
a lot,
Oh,
a lot
cool.
more linen. I'm going to switch to
Yeah.
that here shortly. Uh, but yeah, it's going to be back down to sourcing, which is its own
Something you're not looking
beast.
forward to.
It's its own beast.
Yeah. Well, and you're adding the challenge of making sure it's sustainable too, right? Because I'm sure you can find materials that are not sustainable fairly easily, but it's that boundary to say, okay, I want it in this category to make sure that my customers know that this is always going to be, what they want and what they need in following the brand, right?
Yeah, and having the paperwork on it also is very
Yeah.
important. Yes, where it was made, where the material was sourced from, the testings
Yeah.
that they did that were done on the fabrics themselves. Yeah, those are very important.
That's amazing. Now, in today's world, where there's so many ways to reach customers, it's not just a website, it's not just commercials like on TV. We're in an online kind of world, and it is packed with people selling stuff. How do you connect with your customers and your future customers to get them to understand where, like, what the brand is all about, and to get them to try your clothes and buy your clothes or your apparel?
Yeah, so there's, two different ways. Of course, there's the online method. It's so hard to have an e-commerce store. It is insanely, insanely hard.
Yeah.
But speaking of the digital world, I'm testing this new AI that will be in my
Okay.
storefront that's built in, where you can upload a picture of yourself and it will AI my outfit on you.
No.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I think that's going to be really cool for customers to be able to visualize themselves. I think you can even
Oh, yeah.
invent a background too, like, oh, here I am
Yeah.
at Met Gala. Here I am with the, I don't know.
Oh, it's perfect. That's such a great way to shop, because everybody has a different body type. Everybody has, like, you always look at the people who are wearing the clothes like on the site, and you're like, oh, they look so amazing in it. Then you wear it yourself. And you're like, oh, I don't know if I look like. Here you'll have an idea of what you're going to look like. And you can really source the stuff that really works, right?
Yeah, so that's something that's in beta mode right now. I'm about to launch that very soon. And the second way that I really engage with everyone, I have a very, very cool newsletter that
Okay.
it's not just like, oh, okay, we have a new promotion, new dresses in, sale, drop, shop, shop, shop. Um, I actually discuss all sorts of fun different things that I discover along the way about sustainability, or even about new
Nice.
brands that I think are exciting, or new fabrics that I
Yeah.
think are exciting, even if I'm not yet implementing them. I like to talk about Ayurveda and dressing
Yeah.
dosha. I like to talk about how to detox from toxins in your clothes. Uh,
Nice.
yeah, it's my favorite part actually lately of if we're gonna have
Yeah.
to have a tactic of engaging people. Um,
Yeah, well, and I love it too because it gives you insight into your thoughts, gives it like a little behind the scenes, maybe of what's to come later on as you start to discover. But it really shows your journey into sustainability and really discovering some things. And I think that's the biggest. I think that's the fun part about being part of a brand or buying from a brand is understanding the journey of this brand. We don't, everybody always wants to know what this brand's all about, what this type of apparel is all about, and the makers, but we don't always get to hear that. And so now being able to connect with them, I think is such an important opportunity for brands and owners of shops and things like that to be able to connect with their customers that way, because they can be a part of the journey as well, and maybe even offer you some insights and from their experience and so forth with a reply or something like that. I think that's something that's pretty special. I love that. I love that idea. Now, speaking of through your journey, what has surprised you the most about just sort of the apparel world and being an entrepreneur in this world, in this space?
Surprised me the most when I launched my brand. Uh, I thought that I thought that the sustainability movement would be just commonplace within 5 years. I didn't think that I would. I didn't think I would have a special place in the market for very long, if not ever,
Yeah.
because I thought that it was going to catch on like a wildfire and be the new
Yeah.
organic food. Um, I've been surprised over and over again that it's still very quiet, and people are dropping out because it's just a hard space to deliver in.
Yeah.
And so I was surprised by that, and then I was also surprised on my book tour. I went to a couple of cities that, let's just say, aren't like woke.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
mean, you know what I mean? Like there's the whole
Yeah.
anti-woke movement, and some people might say environmentalism is woke. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't even
No, it's
define.
true. That can happen. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't even define what woke is anymore because it's
No,
such
it's
a
tough.
it's a tough one.
It's kind of been
But
hijacked in a lot of ways.
it's been hijacked, exactly. So on my
Yeah.
book tour, I went to a couple of cities and a couple of shops that I thought maybe I would get a moot reaction, and
Hmm.
instead it was actually some of the most I don't know, charged and interesting conversations that I had for the whole tour. And
Interesting.
the openness that was
Yeah.
there and available was a little bit shocking to me. Uh,
Yeah.
and that
Refreshing
was,
too, I'm sure.
yeah, so refreshing. It gave me so much hope.
Yeah. What kind of conversations, like what are we like, can you give us an example of what people were saying, like what like were people curious about the book and like the workshop idea of it?
You know, you have the lead person that comes to the event, say it's the wife or say it's the daughter, and then
Yeah.
there's the ones who come along. And
Right.
those are the ones that were the surprise conversations. So I had a great conversation with the man who serves in the military,
Yeah.
and he came up to me afterward and said, "Hey, about these toxins, you have no idea how itchy my military uniforms are, and they have
Mm.
a flame retardant on them." And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
"That flame
Yeah.
retardant is a carcinogen."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh my God, this changes how I feel about everything." And there have been studies also that show that the water outside of military bases, the runoff, is full of toxins from them
Yeah.
washing the clothes.
Interesting.
So I think that it applies to more people than is at all realized. It's everyone. Everyone's affected by
Well, we all wear clothes. Most of us anyway wear clothes. So and we don't ask the questions. We just buy because we assume. I think there's an assumption that it's safe, right? Just like your food, especially in North America, there's an assumption that things are safe when you buy it, but we don't realize what goes into our clothes. And sometimes there are people who might be closed-minded, like, I just want to buy clothes and not think about it. I've heard that a lot in terms, even in when I talk about the ocean and some of the issues, it's like, I don't want to think about that. And I'm like, I get it, but just because you're not thinking about it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. And it doesn't mean you're not being affected by it in one way or another, whether it's directly or indirectly. When in terms of clothes, we could be affected directly, sometimes indirectly if we're wearing it not as much. I think that's it's an interesting point. Is like you're raising the eyebrows of a lot of people. You're giving into a bit of that curiosity that we didn't know we necessarily had or needed, but now I think it's time to be like, oh well, maybe we should be asking questions about this because it's affecting our health in the future, and not just the environment, but our own health. I think that's that's an interesting thing. I never would have expected that kind of conversation to happen too. But it must be great. Now, for people who are just on the, like, who are listening to this, like, we have people who are very open-minded in this audience in terms of like environmentalism, and they want to protect the environment, and they learn about this, like what you're telling us here in terms of toxins and that can go into the water systems, that can go, like, you have fibers that can go into the water, and microfibers and so forth. We know of a lot of problems. Where do they begin? I mean, obviously they go to holdingcourtinc.com and start buying your clothes, but how do they start their journey into understanding how to follow more sustainable brands, more sustainable practices when it comes to apparel?
The first thing that you should do is stop buying polyester if you can.
Okay. That I'm wearing right now. Yeah.
Yeah, if you can.
Yeah.
Um, it's about, I mean, the microplastics in the ocean are about 35% microfibers from our
Yeah.
clothes. And that's our polyester shirts and shorts and workout clothes. So if you could just, put a pause on that until we know more, that would be great.
Right.
And then buy organic materials, so like organic cotton, organic linen, organic hemp. That's just going to save you so much trouble. Because it's just going to save you so much trouble. I mean, there's a lot
Yeah.
that can't go into those materials, like your pesticides, and the azo dyes are only used for synthetics. They're not perfect, but it's a good start. And when it comes to washing, I know most stay-at-home moms, or moms in general, or dads who end up doing all the laundry, you kind of just throw it all in there. Like, if it's dirty, it just like goes in its clothing, like it's washed too much. We're washing our clothes too often. You really don't need to wash your clothes as often as you think. In a lot of times, you can actually just do like a quick sink wash in the most important parts and wear it again. Because the washing machine actually damages your clothes. It's really harsh, and detergents are harsh and have their own set of chemical problems. But try not to wash your clothes as much. Try to do your laundry. Just try it by cutting it in half. See what happens.
So if you, like, what are you suggesting? Like, we're looking at, don't do it once a week, do it once every 2 weeks?
Yep, you can. You can.
Okay.
Wear a shirt more than once if it's not gross. Pants can be worn multiple times if they're not gross. I mean, you'll know.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Some people actually put their denim in the freezer to preserve their cleanliness. It'll kill off the bacteria. So it's just like, if they're not even like dirty, and you just want to like quick refresh, throw them in the freezer.
That's hilarious.
But, yeah.
Yeah. Imagine like, oh, what are you doing? Oh, I'm waiting for my jeans to defrost before I put them on. That's fantastic. I love it. I love that idea. Yeah. Courtney, this has been amazing. Just like one last question, I mean, it's great advice. One last thing you'd like to say to people in terms of where they can get the book, the website where they can buy your apparel. Can you just kind of give that off just so that people can get it? And then I'll put it in the show notes to make sure that people can click on those links.
Of course, yeah. So my clothing at holdingcourtinc.com. The book is Read Fashion Workshop, and you can find that on Amazon or Barnes & Nobles or select bookstores, but you can also go to readfashionworkshop.com and find it there very easily. And be on the lookout for the Royal Robe, which is coming probably next year. I'm hoping.
Okay. Well, we'll have to have you back on next year to talk about the book and that journey, because I'm sure that's a whole other story that we can get into and spend more time on that. But Courtney, I want to thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast, because it's been really cool to be able to talk to you, and you're so open and transparent about how things are, where things are at within the apparel industry and what we need to think about, in terms not only from the environmental perspective, but our own health perspective. And I think that's really important. These are questions that we don't ask ourselves or talk about, just sort of in daily conversations, that I feel like is really important. And from somebody who's designing and creating a business off of apparel, and obviously it's very important to you, and definitely offering like a value added proposition to the consumer, to be like, okay, these clothes are not only really nice to wear and feel good, but they're also good for me and for the environment. I think that's really great. So I want to thank you so much for joining us on today's episode.
Thank you for having me, Andrew. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, Courtney, for joining us on today's episode of the How to Protect the Ocean podcast. It was great to have you on, and great to understand a topic that we don't talk about a lot. And I feel like it's something that we need to talk about more and better understand more, and then take action on it. So like the thing that I'm going to leave you with today is, if you are into fashion and you want to find nice clothes, is go over to holdingcourtinc.com. I'll put the link in the show notes, and check out the fashion that's there. You'll probably be surprised that a lot of this stuff is sustainable and actually looks good. Most of it is for a particular gender. If you decide that you want to wear those clothes, whatever gender you are, that's fine by me. I want you to just take a look of what's there and what suits you. If it suits you, go and buy. I think it's really important for us to be exposed to different ways of, making clothes and wearing them and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's really important that you do that, but also just challenge yourself to buy more sustainable, and even find out sometimes how difficult it is to find stuff that's more sustainable. Sometimes vintage shops, used shops with clothes are really good because you're not buying new clothes and they're a lot cheaper. And then there's other times where you can go and look for more sustainable material. Sometimes it's more expensive, sometimes it's really hard to get. But I challenge you to look for that, and let me know in your journey if you found things that are helpful to you, that are better for the environment, better for the ocean, and make you feel good and is affordable. I'd love to hear from you about that. But in the meantime, go to holdingcourtinc.com and check out the clothes there. And I'd love to hear if you buy from there. We're not sponsored by Courtney. I just want to promote the stuff that she does, because she makes some really great clothes. So check that out. And I want to thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of the How to Protect the Ocean podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Lewin, from the True North Strong and Free. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next time, and happy conservation.